Hello everyone, welcome back to Cooking with Cassie and Family. You are all very welcome indeed. In today's episode, we're going to be making this very easy but delicious chicken stew and sauce. In Creole, we call this sauce poule. There are many different ways to make this, but typically I like to make it like this. To begin the cooking process, you're going to start with marinated chicken of your choice. Today I am using thighs and legs. I've already pre-prepped this chicken, seasoned and marinated. Any chicken will work for this stew. I recommend using chicken that has the bone in. Also, marinating your chicken overnight or for at least a few hours will make a huge difference to the flavor of the sauce. Use fresh ingredients if you can. If you would like to know how to prep chicken, type chicken prep video in the comments. Next, you'll need 1 cup of water. You can also use chicken or vegetable broth or chicken stock. Adjust the measurements according to the amount of chicken you are using. Stir in the liquids with the chicken for an even coat. This next ingredient is completely optional. You'll want to add half a cup of milk. This is not traditional to Haitian cuisine, but very common in Southern cooking. That is how I learned to add this ingredient to poultry meats and seafood. You do not need to add this step, but I can guarantee you this will make your broth taste so delicious. Every time I add this ingredient, I get so many compliments on how delicious the stew is. This is my secret ingredient. Any liquids that are added to the meat need to be stirred thoroughly to ensure that there is an even cook of the meat. Next, we're going to cook this on low to medium heat for about 1 hour to 45 minutes. Adjust the time according to the quantity of meat that you are using. The goal is to slow cook the chicken. You'll know your chicken is ready when it's nice and tender but not falling off the bone. You'll want to make sure that it does have enough texture since we are going to be stewing, adding it to a sauce. Right here, you'll see that the meat is tender but not mushy. The cook on this is very important for the texture of the sauce. If you've made it this far into the video, I'd like to ask you for a huge favor. Please consider subscribing to my channel, leaving a comment down below, sharing this with a friend that you know needs to see this, liking this video. From here, you'll need to drizzle a little bit of oil the chicken. If you do have chicken skins, you won't need a lot of oil. I've removed the skin off of my chicken. I'm going to use a baking brush, making sure every part of the meat has oil, since we are going to bake this to add a little more color to the chicken. This step is also optional. You don't have to bake the chicken if you don't want to. You can add the chicken to the sauce once you remove it from the original broth. Oftentimes in cooking Haitian food, we will either bake or fry the meat after it is removed from the original broth. In Creole, we like to say, "Fom bay viande nan koule." Translation: the meat needs to have some type of color to it. Most Haitian people don't eat meat unless it looks well cooked, brown and crispy. After this, I'm going to add a drizzle of seasonings. I will be using a complete seasoning blend. Marinade is not a substitute for seasoning. Make sure you always season your food, even if it's light seasoning, like what I'm doing right now. This will make sure that your food tastes absolutely delicious. Always use whatever you have on hand. I will also drizzle a little bit of black pepper. Using seasonings that are low in sodium will give your food a kick of flavor without making it salty. Now I'm going to put the chicken on high broil in the oven for approximately 10 to 15 minutes. Chicken is already cooked, only needs a little bit of color. The final step is to make our tomato-based sauce. To do this, we'll need to use the original broth that we boiled the chicken in earlier. Start by removing any of the aromatics, vegetables that we used earlier in the broth. You can set them aside for when you make epis or Haitian spice, or discard them as they will not be used in the next steps. Remove all of the large pieces. You'll need a fine mesh strainer. Use one that has very small holes. We're going to drain the liquid, getting out all of the little pieces of herbs and spices that are left in the broth. Do not use a spoon to scrape the strainer. We don't want any of the pieces to fall into the sauce. Simply move your hand in a circular motion to get any extra liquid. At this point, you'll want to taste the broth to make sure that it has enough seasonings and salt. Mine was perfectly seasoned and had the right amount of sodium. For this amount of broth, I'm only going to use half. If you end up with this amount of liquid, you'll not need to use all of it for the sauce. The final ingredient list for the sauce, you'll need a can of tomato paste and fresh peppers and onions. You can use any vegetables of your choice. I do not have measurements for this next step. I simply use 2 forks of the tomato paste. I'm not sure how I could possibly measure the amount of tomato paste I use, so I often measure based off of the spoonful or the forkful. Then you'll want to take some of the liquid that we just strained, add it to your bowl of tomato paste, begin to whisk that together. Again, I will not be utilizing all of this liquid because we'll end up with soup instead of sauce. Again, if you have this much liquid after you steam your chicken, do not use all of it for the sauce. After a few minutes, your sauce should look like this. Next, we're going to add this to our saucepan along with half a cup of water. The tomato paste is what gives the sauce a little bit of base, prevents it from being watery. You can choose to opt out of using tomato paste. Just simply use your broth along with the vegetables of your choice. When you're ready, you'll want to cook this down on low heat for about 10 minutes. Keep an eye on your stew to make sure that the water does not dry out. Once your sauce comes to a boil, add in your vegetables. You'll want to make sure you add the vegetables once the sauce is already boiling. I like to add half of the onions during this step, but all of the bell peppers. I add the remaining onions once I turn off my stove. This gives the sauce such a unique but delicious flavor. You'll know your sauce is ready once the tomato paste has separated from the broth and your vegetables are fully cooked. Always taste your food for seasonings. Make sure everything tastes right. Adjust and readjust as needed. Now the only thing to do is to add in your baked chicken. Look at the color on that chicken. This is why I prefer to bake. It's a healthier alternative to frying. You'll get a nice color on the chicken and a nice texture for your palate. Pro tip is to add the chicken at the very end. Do not add the chicken while your sauce is still boiling. It will make the chicken soft and ruin the texture that we just worked so hard to perfect. Alternatively, feel free to fry the chicken if that is what you prefer. The most important part of cooking Haitian food is the flavor, and that is a job done. I want to thank you for watching the video all the way to the end. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe to the channel, leave me a comment below, let me know what you want to see next, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.